Hi, and welcome to our first shortcuts video that are really just short clips on a very specific part of our practice to break it down and give you some options of how to change things up a bit to make the practice work for your body and what's happening for you right now. So the first thing we're going to talk about is using some blocks in our practice. And part of sun salutations involves, down dog and plank and chaturanga. And if you've got wrist and shoulder injuries, that can be really difficult and leave you feeling like, I don't know what to do when we're going through this because I can't do what they're doing. So, and just a quick little blurb about sun salutations. Sun salutations are a great part of our practice because we're forward folding, we're back bending, we're building upper strength, we're using our legs. There's all kinds of things going on that really warm the body in all directions. And it also is in a metaphoric way, we are honoring the earth and the cycles of the sun. And also we are awakening the sun within our own bodies. And so there's a very important part of the yoga practice, but it can be frustrating when you can't do all of the aspects of it. So as we're moving through our practice, and even something as simple as coming into tabletop if you have wrist issues. There's a 90-degree bend in my wrist here, and so that can put a lot of pressure on the wrist if you're dealing with tendonitis or arthritis or any of the other things that can go on in the little tiny wrist bones. And so if we bring our hands up onto blocks, you can see how my upper body is now lifted, and so more weight is shifted into the lower body and less weight into my hands. So this makes it a lot more comfortable, whether it's shoulder, wrist, elbow, whatever you've got going on. And so you can do your cat-cow here, any of the other things that we might work on in tabletop position, you can do with your hand on a block. Really takes a lot of the pressure off. Now, as we move through our actual sun salutations, and we move into plank, and I have a lot of obstacles here today. So, for instance, we move into downward facing dog. You can still have your hands on your blocks and kind of wrap your hands around, your fingers around so that you're not slipping. And this can bring a lot of weight off the wrists and shoulders, just like it did in tabletop. As we're moving forward to plank pose, a couple of options for you here. First of all, of course, you can always lower the knees. And if lowering down from plank is not an option for you, here's a couple of things that you can work on that are excellent strength builders for the shoulders and not putting a lot of pressure on the wrists. So we've done this in class many times where we're doing shoulder blade push-ups. So all we're doing is letting the shoulder blades slide toward one another and then pressing away, and the shoulder blade slides across to the side of the body. And so this is really strengthening for that group of muscles. There's 4 muscles that make up the rotator cuff muscles. So if you've got some issues going on in your shoulders with that, just doing this as we move, the rest of the class is moving through a vinyasa, super strengthening. You can also do this from plank pose, which is a little more core strengthening at the same time that you're working with your shoulder muscles. And then a third variation is to do little mini chaturangas. Even if you don't have a shoulder injury and you're working up to it, you can just lower down as far as is appropriate for you and press back up. I can already feel this in my shoulder muscles, and how far you go is dependent on what's happening as far as strength, and you can even pause there for a moment before you press back up. Okay, so now the back bend portion. Normally we would move through cobra or upward facing dog. So your cat-cow can be or your cow pose, sorry, could be your back bend. You could even move in and out of hanging cobra without ever lowering down to your mat. So bending the knees, shifting forward, and opening the front body, keeping the arms straight. and then shifting back into child's pose. So just working really simply with the blocks to take a little bit of the pressure off, and really working. I can feel my my shoulder, all the muscles around my shoulder blades. I can feel the work that I just did, even though it seems very simple. I don't ever have to do a chaturanga the rest of my life and still could have really strong shoulders just by working methodically and mindfully using props to work through that. So give that a whirl. Even if you don't have something going on with shoulders and wrists, it's really fun sometimes to change up how you move through your practice, and it sets up a different connection between the mind and the muscles, the mind and the body. So play with that this week, and if you have any poses or questions that you would like to talk about, would like me to talk about, shoot me a message, and we will see you in next week's Shortcuts. Namaste.